much. I want to bring in Brian Claypool now, criminal defense attorney. I tell you, I don't know necessarily if my first question is a legal one. It's a cultural one. But what exactly is the goal of the school board officials in Montgomery County, Maryland, to teach 5-year-olds sexuality? Like, what is the goal sexualizing their sort of learning experience?
Yeah, hey, Harris, always a privilege to be with you. That's a great question, and I think you've got to read between the lines there. Look at the titles of the books you just read for your viewers. I mean, Born Ready, this tinkers on coercion. In other words, you're trying to teach your parents how they should manage their children, right? Because what the courts have done up until now is they've said, is this coercing parents to have their kids exposed to this and to possibly endorse this type of behavior? Or is it simply just talking about a lifestyle, introducing a different lifestyle? But look, the agenda here is questionable. Why are they talking about this at this age? And another point is that, look, they previously had this opt-out policy. You've got to look deeper on why they don't want this anymore. And I think I know the reason why. Public schools get funding, state and federal funding, when kids show up in school, Harris. So now they're worried about money and funding. So they don't want to do this opt-out anymore. It's too much administratively, and that's why they're fighting this, because it really is about funding, because kids are missing class.
You know what? That is fascinating, because that's not how it was sold, although the words were similar. We had too many people not coming to class, is the paraphrase on what their argument is. And I thought, well, is that a subject matter? Do kids feel left out? Like what? No. What you said is this is about money. And that's disgusting.
Yeah, that's right. And I think it's important to also note that, look, the parents here are being reasonable, Harris. They're not saying we think these books are unconstitutional. They're not saying that. They're saying, look, you could have these books, but these books aren't going to be in front of my kids from grade K, kindergarten to age 5, because they're not appropriate. And you have something you can do to allow us to make a decision. You're a parent, I'm a parent. We want to be able to decide when our kids are exposed to these topics, and not you. And look, the Supreme Court has ruled recently with the football coach praying on the 50-yard line. He was reinstated. There was a foster care agency that was allowed to not do business with a same-sex family. And so I think that the court is probably leaning toward re-implementing the opt-out procedure here.
Look, I want to bring in this new opinion piece, because it really hits something with this headline. Get your take on it. Non-religious parents have rights too. And then the author goes on to write, my father, who is secular and a staunch Democrat, said about this case that you don't have to be religious to object to telling a 3-year-old that doctors only guess a baby's sex at birth, or giving them a storybook telling them to search for images of things they find at a pride parade, such as a drag queen, leather, and intersex flag. He thinks that parents have the right to opt their children out of such indoctrination, and it's just common sense. Well, look, this looks like a nonpartisan issue, and you and I hadn't gone political yet, but what's your take?
Yeah, that's a great quote, because really this isn't about religion. This isn't about you not having a right to carry out your own religious beliefs. This really has to do with a parent having the right to determine when his or her child is exposed to information about transgender, about being gay, and that's really what this is about. It's not religious interference. And I think at the end of the day, this case is really about how much power do public schools have in determining what your child is going to learn on a topic that you're not morally comfortable with.
Great question. All right. Well